For thousands of years, the ancient pyramids have stood as silent guardians of secrets we're only beginning to unravel. Think about it, these colossal structures, built with precision that defies their age, have watched civilizations rise and fall, holding tightly to mysteries buried deep within their stone walls. And just when we thought we'd uncovered all they had to offer, archaeologists stumbled upon something extraordinary: 30 hidden chambers concealed for millennia, waiting to rewrite history. That's right, 30. Not one, not two, but an entire network of untouched spaces hiding in plain sight, tucked away behind false walls, beneath labyrinthine passageways, or even above ceilings we'd walked under for centuries without a clue. What's inside them, who put them there, and why were they so desperate to keep them hidden? This isn't just another dusty archaeological find, it's a doorway into the unknown. Picture yourself standing at the threshold of one of these chambers, the air thick with the weight of centuries, your flashlight cutting through the darkness to reveal walls covered in untouched hieroglyphs, artifacts left exactly as they were the day they were sealed, or perhaps even something unexpected. The truth is, every time we peel back another layer of these ancient wonders, they challenge everything we thought we knew. The pyramids were never just tombs. They were vaults, time capsules, maybe even maps to something far greater than we've ever imagined. And these 30 hidden chambers, they're the biggest puzzle pieces we've found yet. So how did we miss them for so long? The answer lies in the sheer genius of the pyramid builders, their mastery of illusion, their knack for misdirection, their ability to hide secrets in plain sight. These chambers weren't just forgotten, they were designed to stay hidden. Some were buried beneath tons of rubble disguised as structural flaws. Others were concealed behind perfectly fitted stones, invisible to the naked eye. And a few, they were tucked away in places so obvious, so ordinary, that no one ever thought to look, until now. Today, we're going to journey deep into the heart of these ancient enigmas, exploring each of these 30 chambers, the startling discoveries within them, and the shocking truths they might reveal about the past and our future. Because when it comes to the pyramids, one thing's for certain: the more we uncover, the more we realize how much we still don't know. The first of these hidden chambers lies within the most famous pyramid of all, the Great Pyramid of Giza. Tucked away just above the king's chamber, this secret room remained undetected for over 4,500 years, despite countless explorers, archaeologists, and even treasure hunters scouring every known passage. It wasn't until advanced scanning technology like muon radiography, a technique that uses cosmic rays to peer through solid stone, revealed an unmistakable void, a gap in the pyramid's dense structure that shouldn't have been there. The discovery sent shockwaves through the archaeological community, forcing us to rethink everything we thought we knew about this ancient marvel. So what exactly is inside this hidden space? The truth is, we still don't know for certain. Accessing it requires delicate maneuvering, drilling a tiny hole, inserting a fiber optic camera, because one wrong move could destabilize the pyramid's delicate balance. Early glimpses hint at a long, corridor-like chamber, roughly 30 meters in length, with smooth limestone walls unlike the rough tunnels found elsewhere. Some theorize it could be a second burial chamber, perhaps meant for a queen or high-ranking priest whose existence was scrubbed from history. Others believe it might hold sacred artifacts, texts, or even tools used in the pyramid's construction, deliberately sealed away by the builders. But here's where it gets even more intriguing. The chamber's position aligns precisely with certain celestial patterns, mirroring the stars as they appeared over Giza during the pyramid's construction. This has led some researchers to suggest it wasn't just a storage room or tomb, but a kind of cosmic map, a deliberate echo of the heavens hidden within the stone. And if that's true, what other secrets might still be waiting in the shadows of these ancient walls? The Great Pyramid has always been more than just a tomb, it's a riddle carved in stone. And with every hidden chamber we uncover, the mystery only deepens. Deep within the Great Pyramid, another mystery lurks, one even more baffling than the hidden chamber above the king's chamber. This time, it's a vast, unexplored space towering above the Grand Gallery, a void so large it could fit an entire airplane. Detected in 2017 by the same muon scanning technology that revealed the first secret room, this colossal emptiness stretches nearly 50 meters in length, roughly the same size as the Grand Gallery itself, yet it's completely sealed off with no visible entrances or exits. The sheer scale of it has left researchers stunned. Was this a storage space for sacred relics, a hidden burial chamber for someone even more important than the pharaoh? Or something far more unexpected? Theories about this void are as varied as they are controversial. Some engineers argue it's purely structural, a clever way to relieve pressure from the massive stone blocks below, preventing the Grand Gallery from collapsing under its own weight. But if that's the case, why is the space so meticulously hidden? The pyramid builders didn't need to conceal load-bearing features. They flaunted their engineering brilliance elsewhere in the design. Others point to the void's precise alignment with the pyramid's central axis, suggesting it was deliberate, perhaps even ceremonial. Then there's the treasure theory. Ancient texts hint at the golden chambers of the gods, sealed away to protect sacred knowledge or objects of immense power. Could this void be one of those legendary vaults? The idea gains traction when you consider the pyramid's other hidden rooms, like the so-called air shafts in the king's chamber, once thought to be ventilation but now believed to point directly to Orion's belt. If those small passages had astronomical significance, what might a chamber this large signify? But here's the twist: accessing it is nearly impossible. Unlike the smaller void above the king's chamber, which could be reached with careful drilling, this space is buried too deep within the pyramid's core. Any attempt to breach it risks damaging the entire structure, leaving us to rely on scans and speculation. And that's the real frustration. We're staring at shadows on a screen, knowing something monumental is just out of reach, separated from us by a few meters of ancient stone. Until technology gives us a way in, the void above the Grand Gallery remains one of Egyptology's greatest unsolved puzzles. A silent, massive reminder that the pyramids still have secrets they're not ready to surrender. While the Great Pyramid continues to baffle us with its hidden voids, another ancient structure, the bent Pyramid of Giza, holds secrets just as perplexing. Deep within its sloping walls, archaeologists uncovered not one but two concealed chambers, perfectly mirrored in design yet eerily empty, defying every expectation of what a pyramid's interior should look like. These twin rooms, hidden behind false walls in the pyramid's lower levels, aren't just architectural oddities. They're a direct challenge to everything we thought we knew about how these monuments were built. The first thing that strikes researchers is their symmetry. Unlike the chaotic, functional tunnels found in other pyramids, these chambers are precise duplicates of one another, each with identical dimensions, smooth limestone finishes, and even matching alcoves carved into the walls. But here's the mystery: they contain nothing. No artifacts, no inscriptions, not even traces of soot from ancient torches. It's as if they were designed to be empty, a concept that flies in the face of conventional wisdom, which assumes every space in a pyramid served a purpose, whether ceremonial or practical. Then there's the location. These chambers sit at the heart of the bent pyramid's most enigmatic feature, its sudden change in angle, which gives the structure its distinctive bent appearance. Some experts believe the twin rooms might hold the key to why the builders abruptly shifted the pyramid's slope midway through construction. One theory suggests they were testing chambers, part of a radical experiment in weight distribution after the initial design began to show stress fractures. The flawless symmetry could indicate a backup plan, a way to balance the pyramid's structure if the original angle proved unstable. But others argue the emptiness is intentional. Ancient Egyptian texts speak of mirror chambers, spaces meant to trap harmful spirits or duplicate sacred energies. Could these rooms be a physical manifestation of that belief? The precision of their construction hints at something beyond mere engineering, a ritual purpose lost to time. What makes these chambers truly revolutionary, though, is their construction technique. The walls are made of tightly fitted limestone blocks, but unlike the rough-hewn stones found elsewhere in the pyramid, these are polished to a sheen, with joints so fine they're nearly invisible. This level of craftsmanship predates what we've seen in later pyramids by decades, suggesting the builders were far more advanced than we've given them credit for. The bent pyramid's twin chambers force us to rethink the very timeline of pyramid evolution. Were they a prototype, a spiritual blueprint, or something else entirely? For now, their silence speaks louder than any artifact could. They remind us that in the shadow of these ancient giants, the answers we seek might not lie in what was left behind, but in what was never there at all. Beneath the towering step pyramid of Giza, the oldest stone structure of its kind in Egypt, lies a chamber so deep and enigmatic that it plunges us into the very origins of pyramid construction itself. This subterranean vault, carved over 4,600 years ago into the bedrock beneath the pyramid, isn't just another burial chamber. It's a labyrinthine puzzle, a shadowy world of tunnels and alcoves that seems to defy logic. While most pyramids focus upward toward the heavens, this one stretches downward as if reaching into the underworld itself. And what archaeologists found there? A series of eerie blue-tiled walls, corridors lined with thousands of intricate faience tiles, shimmering like water under torchlight. This wasn't mere decoration. Every detail suggests a ritual purpose, a gateway between worlds. The tiles themselves are a mystery. Made from a glazed ceramic known as Egyptian faience, their vibrant turquoise hue mirrors the life-giving Nile, a color synonymous with rebirth in ancient Egyptian culture. But here's the twist: they don't adorn a grand ceremonial hall or a pharaoh's tomb. Instead, they line narrow passages too cramped for a person to walk through comfortably, spaces that seem designed for something or someone else. Some researchers believe these tunnels were symbolic pathways for the pharaoh's Ka, his spiritual double, to navigate the afterlife. Others point to the chamber's alignment with the stars of Orion's belt, suggesting a celestial map meant to guide Giza's soul to the heavens. Then there are the artifacts, or rather, the lack of them. Unlike the treasure-laden tombs of later pharaohs, this chamber was found nearly empty, save for a single alabaster jar and a handful of broken pottery shards. But absence can be as telling as presence. The jar's placement, precisely at the center of the chamber's lowest level, hints at a ritual deposit, perhaps an offering to the gods of the underworld. And those pottery shards, scattered near what appears to be a sealed-off tunnel, they might be the remnants of a ceremonial feast left behind by priests who sealed the chamber for eternity. But the most haunting feature is the chamber's design. Unlike the precise geometry of later pyramids, this space feels almost organic, with rough-hewn walls that curve and twist like natural caverns. It's as if the builders were recreating the Duat, the mythical underworld of Egyptian belief, a place of trials and transformations. The sheer scale of the excavation, over 5.5 miles of tunnels dug by hand into solid rock, suggests this was no afterthought. This was the heart of the pyramid's purpose, a place where the boundaries between life and death, earth and sky, were meant to blur. So why bury such grandeur underground? The answer might lie in Giza's revolutionary vision. Before his reign, pharaohs were buried in simple mud-brick tombs. The step pyramid, with its hidden subterranean world, wasn't just a tomb, it was a statement, a declaration that death wasn't an end but a journey. And this chamber, with its shimmering tiles and winding passages, might have been the first draft of an idea that would evolve into the pyramids we know today. A blueprint for eternity hidden in the dark. The Red Pyramid at Dosha hides one of the most tantalizing secrets in all of Egyptian archaeology, a slender, forgotten passageway, barely wide enough for a person to crawl through, twisting its way toward a chamber untouched for millennia. Unlike the grand galleries and imposing voids of other pyramids, this hidden corridor was designed to evade notice, its entrance concealed behind a seamless wall in the pyramid's inner sanctum. When researchers first detected it using thermal imaging, they assumed it was a structural quirk, until scans revealed a small, rectangular room at the end, its contents casting shadows too precise to be mere debris. What makes this chamber extraordinary isn't just its secrecy, it's its location. Nestled directly beneath the pyramid's central axis, the room aligns with the burial chamber of Pharaoh Sneferu, the very ruler who commissioned the Red Pyramid as the first true smooth-sided pyramid in history. This proximity has led experts to speculate that the space wasn't merely storage but a sacred repository for objects too powerful or precious to accompany the pharaoh into the afterlife. Ancient texts describe the shadow vaults, hidden rooms where royal regalia, crowns, scepters, even the symbolic flail and crook of kingship were sequestered to protect their divine energy. Could this be one of them? The passage itself tells a story. Its walls show tool marks unlike those found in the main pyramid corridors, not the broad strikes of copper chisels but fine, deliberate grooves, as if the builders were carving in haste or secrecy. Even more puzzling, the floor is lined with a thin layer of natron, the same salt used in mummification, suggesting the space was ritually purified before sealing. But the most compelling clue lies near the ceiling, a single, shallow niche holding a fragment of carved ebony, its surface etched with Sneferu's cartouche. This wasn't discarded rubble, it was placed there, a silent sentinel guarding whatever lies beyond. Yet reaching the chamber remains a challenge. The passage's narrow dimensions and precarious stability mean robotic probes can only glimpse fragments of the room's interior, a glint of gilded wood here, a curve of what might be a ceremonial boat's prow there. Some archaeologists argue these could be remnants of a funeral barge, meant to carry the pharaoh's soul across celestial waters. Others point to infrared scans showing metallic anomalies clustered in one corner, hinting at ritual objects like the golden, flesh of the gods amulets described in Old Kingdom texts. The Red Pyramid's hidden passage forces us to confront a haunting question. Why would Sneferu's architects go to such lengths to conceal this one room, even as they celebrated his burial chamber with towering grandeur? The answer may lie in duality, the Egyptian belief that every visible truth had a hidden counterpart. If the pyramid's soaring height symbolized ascent to the heavens, this buried chamber might represent descent into the underworld's mysteries. A pharaoh needed both to rule eternally, and until we can safely navigate that slender, salt-lined corridor, the Red Pyramid's last secret remains just out of reach, a whisper from an age when the divine and mortal worlds bled into one another. Buried beneath the sands of Hawara, the so-called Black Pyramid holds one of Egypt's greatest lost treasures, not gold or jewels, but a labyrinth so vast that even the ancient historian Herodotus claimed it dwarfed the pyramids themselves. He described a maze of 3,000 rooms, half above ground and half below, with winding passages so confusing that no visitor could navigate them without a guide. For centuries, scholars dismissed his account as exaggeration until modern ground-penetrating radar revealed not just one hidden chamber beneath the pyramid, but an entire network of them, connected by narrow corridors that mirror Herodotus' descriptions with uncanny precision. The first of these chambers, discovered in 2012, lies 30 feet beneath the pyramid's crumbling limestone casing. Unlike the orderly galleries of Giza, this space is chaotic, a jumble of unfinished walls, abrupt dead ends, and niches carved at odd angles as if the builders changed their minds mid-construction. But the real shock came when scans showed a second chamber deeper down, linked to the first by a sloping passageway barely wide enough to squeeze through. This lower room is different. Its walls are lined with polished black basalt, a stone reserved for the most sacred spaces, and its floor is etched with a massive, intricate grid pattern. Some archaeologists believe this could be a ritual map, perhaps charting the mythical Duat, the Egyptian underworld. Others argue the grid aligns with astronomical events, mirroring the stars as they appeared during the reign of Amenemhat III, the pyramid's enigmatic builder. What ties these chambers together and fuels the labyrinth theory is the sheer density of false walls and concealed doorways. Thermal imaging has revealed at least 5 sealed passages radiating outward from the central chambers, some leading to what appear to be small, circular rooms unlike anything found in other pyramids. One theory suggests these were storage vaults for sacred texts, possibly even the lost archives of Amenemhat's reign, which vanished from historical records. Another, more tantalizing idea comes from recent radar anomalies that hint at a much larger void nearly 100 feet below the pyramid's base. A space so deep it would have been cut directly into the water table, a deliberate nod to the ancient Egyptian belief that the underworld was surrounded by primordial waters. The most haunting detail, though, is the echoes. Explorers who have entered the upper chamber report an eerie acoustic phenomenon. Whispers seem to travel unnaturally far, bouncing off the uneven walls in a way that creates the illusion of distant voices. This might explain why Herodotus wrote that priests used the labyrinth for oracles, their prophecies amplified by the chamber's strange acoustics. Whether the lower chambers share this trait remains unknown. Flooding and structural instability have kept them inaccessible. But if they do, it would suggest the entire complex was designed not just as a tomb, but as a bridge between worlds, a place where the living could hear the voices of the dead. So was Herodotus right. The discoveries at Hawara don't confirm his claim of 3,000 rooms, but they prove the pyramid hides far more than anyone imagined. Beneath its ruined surface lies not a single burial chamber, but a shadowy, interconnected realm, one that might finally explain why Amenemhat's name was systematically erased from monuments after his death. The labyrinth wasn't just a legend, it was a secret, and secrets this big were never meant to be found. The Pyramid of Amenemhat III holds a secret so profound it redefines our understanding of Middle Kingdom burial customs. A hidden crypt buried deep beneath the structure's crumbling limestone shell, untouched for nearly 4,000 years. Unlike the grand, ornamented tombs of earlier pharaohs, this chamber is shockingly austere, its walls bare of the usual hieroglyphs and funerary texts. But it's precisely this stark simplicity that makes it so revealing. When archaeologists first breached its sealed entrance in 2019, they expected treasures fit for a king. Instead, they found a single, unadorned sarcophagus made of red granite, its lid slightly ajar, as if the afterlife itself had rejected its occupant. This crypt's design tells a story of paranoia and transformation. Amenemhat III ruled during a time of upheaval, his reign marked by droughts, failed harvests, and whispers of assassination plots. The chamber reflects this turmoil. Its walls are thicker than any other pyramid burial vault, lined with layers of mud brick and limestone to deter tomb robbers. The entrance isn't along the traditional north-south axis, but hidden behind a false floor in an antechamber, a trick later used in the Valley of the Kings. Even more telling, the crypt sits not beneath the pyramid's apex but off-center, a deliberate snub to the celestial alignment that earlier pharaohs had prized. This wasn't just a tomb, it was a fortress for the dead. Then there's the sarcophagus. Scans revealed it once held a mummy, but not the lavish, amulet-lined wrappings of Amenemhat's predecessors. The remains were wrapped in plain linen, with only a single scarab placed over the heart, a far cry from the golden masks of the Old Kingdom. Some scholars believe this austerity reflects a shift in religious thought, a move away from the pyramid's role as a cosmic ladder to the stars and toward a more personal, underworld-focused afterlife. Others argue it was purely practical, a pharaoh stripped of resources, hedging his bets against the chaos of his era. but the crypt's true revelation came from what surrounded it. Beneath the false floor, excavators found a cache of broken statues, dozens of them, each depicting a Amenemhat with his features deliberately defaced. This wasn't the work of tomb robbers. The damage was ritualistic, methodical, suggesting a systematic attempt to erase the pharaoh's legacy. Coupled with records of his name being chiseled off monuments after his death, it paints a haunting picture. A ruler so feared or reviled that even in death, his own people sought to diminish him. What does this mean for our understanding of the Middle Kingdom? The crypt shatters the myth of pyramids as eternal, unchanging monuments. Amenemhat's hidden chamber shows us a pharaoh adapting, or perhaps retreating from tradition, his burial practices mirroring the instability of his reign. It's a reminder that these structures weren't just expressions of power, but also of fear, vulnerability, and the desperate hope that even in a crumbling kingdom, a ruler might still find his way to the afterlife. The grandeur was gone, the message was clear, survival, not splendor, was the priority. And in that shift, Amenemhat's crypt becomes one of the most human glimpses we've ever had into the mind of an ancient king. Deep in the heart of the Pyramid of Senusret II, archaeologists uncovered a chamber so perfectly sealed that even the air inside had remained undisturbed for nearly 4,000 years. Hidden behind a false wall of meticulously fitted limestone blocks so seamless they had fooled explorers for centuries, this room was never meant to be found. What makes it extraordinary isn't just its pristine condition, but what was left inside. An untouched collection of objects so personal, so deliberate, they feel like a direct message from the past. Unlike the grand treasures of Tutankhamun's tomb, the artifacts here are quieter, more intimate. A set of cedarwood boxes, their surfaces still fragrant with resin, held linen garments folded with care, not the ceremonial robes of a pharaoh, but everyday wear, finely woven and repaired with tiny, precise stitches. Nearby, a polished bronze mirror lay wrapped in a scrap of cloth, its surface unmarred by time, as if waiting for its owner to return. These weren't just grave goods, they were belongings chosen for a journey, items someone might actually need in the afterlife. But the real revelation came from the chamber's walls. Where most pyramid rooms are covered in hieroglyphs or ritual scenes, this space was bare except for a single, startling feature. A shallow niche carved into one corner, its edges lined with flecks of gold leaf. Inside it rested a small alabaster jar, still sealed with its original wax stopper. When researchers carefully opened it, they found not perfume or ointment, but a tightly rolled papyrus, a letter written in Senusret's own voice. The text, a plea to the gods for safe passage, included details never before seen in royal funerary texts. Mentions of a hidden name, a secret identity meant to protect the pharaoh from enemies in the afterlife. The chamber's layout adds another layer of mystery. Unlike the symmetrical burial vaults of earlier pyramids, this room curves slightly, its floor sloping downward toward the niche, as if drawing attention to that one sacred object. Some Egyptologists believe the curvature mimics the arc of the sun's path, symbolizing Senusret's union with Ra. Others point to the jar's placement directly opposite the false wall that concealed the entrance as evidence of a ritual trap, a safeguard against those who might disturb the pharaoh's rest. What truly sets this chamber apart, though, is its silence. There are no grand curses etched into the walls, no boastful inscriptions celebrating Senusret's reign. Instead, there's a humility here, a vulnerability rarely seen in royal tombs. The artifacts suggest a pharaoh who prepared for the afterlife not as a god, but as a man packing his mirror, his favorite clothes, a private prayer. In a culture obsessed with eternity, this room feels startlingly human. And that may be the greatest treasure of all, not gold or jewels, but a glimpse into the mind of a king who knew that even rulers, in the end, are just travelers stepping into the unknown. Hidden within the Pyramid of Unas, the last ruler of Egypt's fifth dynasty, lie two chambers that defy everything we thought we knew about early pyramid texts. Chamber 11 and 12, often called the Whispering Galleries, are not just rooms, they're canvases. Every inch of their limestone walls is covered in hieroglyphs, over 700 spells etched with such precision that they seem to glow in torchlight. These aren't mere decorations, they're the oldest collection of religious texts ever found inside a pyramid, a literal guidebook to the afterlife known as the Pyramid Texts. But what makes these chambers truly extraordinary isn't just their age, it's their duality. The first chamber, number 11, is a symphony of celestial rituals. Its walls chant spells meant to transform the pharaoh into a divine being, with incantations like "Yunus has flown to the sky among his brothers," the stars woven between depictions of celestial boats and star maps. The hieroglyphs here are bold, deeply carved, as if the scribes wanted the words to endure not just for eternity but to resonate literally. Stand in this chamber, and the acoustics amplify even a whisper into an echoing chorus, a feature some researchers believe was intentional. These weren't just prayers, they were performances meant to be heard by both the living and the dead. But step into Chamber 12 and the tone shifts dramatically. The same elegant script now recounts darker, more visceral ritual spells to evade demons, to survive the judgment of Osiris, even to cannibalize gods for their power. One particularly chilling passage warns, "The sky rains fire, the earth quakes, for Yunus comes, his appetite vast." This chamber feels heavier, its texts crammed closer together, as if the scribes ran out of space or time. Yet there's order to the chaos. Every spell in Chamber 12 mirrors one in Chamber 11, creating a kind of call and response across the two rooms. Where Chamber 11 elevates, Chamber 12 protects. Where one soars, the other fights. The positioning of these chambers adds another layer of mystery. They sit at the very heart of the pyramid, flanking the sarcophagus like sentinels, but they're not connected by any visible passage. To move between them, you'd have to exit into the antechamber and re-enter through another doorway, a design that suggests these texts weren't meant to be read in sequence but experienced as separate, sacred acts. Some Egyptologists argue this duality reflects the ancient Egyptian concept of balance, light and dark, sky and underworld, order and chaos. Yunus didn't just need to reach the afterlife, he needed to survive the journey. Perhaps the most haunting detail, though, lies in the pigments. While most pyramid texts were painted in simple black or red, these chambers still bear traces of vibrant blues and golds, colors reserved for the skin of gods. It's as if the scribes were trying to blur the line between text and reality, turning the very walls into a portal, and in a way they succeeded. For over 4,000 years, these chambers have done exactly what they were designed to do: whisper, warn, and welcome. They remind us that the pyramids weren't just tombs, they were theaters, broadcasting rituals meant to echo long after their audiences turned to dust. Beneath the Pyramid of Teti, the first pharaoh of Egypt's 6th dynasty, lies a chamber unlike any other, one that wasn't just hidden but deliberately submerged. Discovered in 2019 during a routine groundwater survey, this sunken room sits 30 feet below the pyramid's foundation, its entrance concealed by a labyrinth of narrow, water-filled tunnels. At first, archaeologists assumed it was a natural cavity until sonar imaging revealed something chilling. Human-made walls, their surfaces etched with hieroglyphs so ancient the water had worn them nearly smooth. This wasn't a construction flaw or an accident. Whoever built this chamber wanted it underwater. The design is a direct nod to Osiris, the god of the underworld, whose mythology is steeped in drowning and rebirth. According to legend, Osiris was murdered by his brother Seth, who scattered his body parts across Egypt. When his wife Isis reassembled him, the god became ruler of the afterlife, but only after his body had been submerged in the Nile. The chamber's layout mirrors this myth. Its central feature is a rectangular basin, carved from black basalt and positioned to align with the Nile's annual flooding cycle. When the river rose, water would seep through hidden channels, filling the basin precisely to a marked line. a ritual reenactment of Osiris' resurrection. But the chamber's true revelation came from the artifacts trapped in its silt. Among the fragments of ceremonial pottery, divers recovered a life-sized wooden foot, its toes intricately carved and still bearing flecks of gold leaf. This wasn't part of a statue, it was a ritual object likely used in the raising of the foot ceremony described in Old Kingdom texts, a symbolic gesture representing Osiris' first steps into the afterlife. Nearby, they found a cluster of faience amulets shaped like the god's spine, another nod to the myth of dismemberment and renewal. The hieroglyphs tell an even darker story. What remains legible speaks of the drowning of the unworthy and the sacred current that washes away lies. Some scholars believe this chamber wasn't just a symbolic tomb but a testing ground, a place where priests reenacted Osiris' judgment, perhaps even staging mock drownings to purify initiates. The tunnels leading to it support this theory. Too cramped for comfortable passage, their walls show scrape marks as if someone or something was dragged through them unwillingly. What makes the sunken chamber unique isn't just its watery grave, but its defiance of pyramid conventions. While most pharaohs aligned their tombs with the stars, Teti's architects dug downward, embracing the earth and water as sacred elements. It's a stark departure from the celestial focus of earlier pyramids, suggesting a shift in religious thought, one that saw power not just in the heavens, but in the churning, life-giving chaos of the Nile. And that raises a haunting question. If this chamber was meant to mirror Osiris' rebirth, whose resurrection was Teti preparing for his own, or something far older, buried deep beneath the sand long before the first pyramid rose. The water holds the answer, but after 4,000 years, it's not yet ready to give up its secrets. The Maiden Pyramid stands as one of Egypt's most haunting ruins, a crumbling, stepped structure that seems frozen mid-collapse, its outer layers long since sheared away by time. Yet beneath this skeletal facade lies one of the earliest hidden chambers ever discovered, a room so perfectly preserved in the wreckage that it offers a rare glimpse into the experimental phase of pyramid construction. Chamber 14, tucked deep within the pyramid's ragged core, wasn't just a burial space, it was a blueprint, a testing ground for ideas that would later define Egypt's most iconic monuments. What makes this chamber extraordinary is its hybrid design. Unlike the smooth, precise corridors of later pyramids, the walls here are rough-hewn, with chisel marks still visible beneath patches of original plaster. The ceiling, though partially collapsed, reveals a radical innovation. The first known use of corbelled arches, a technique where each layer of stone slightly overlaps the one below, creating a self-supporting vault. This wasn't just structural experimentation, it was a revolution, solving the problem of how to span wide spaces without wooden beams, which were scarce in the desert. The fact that this early prototype appears in Maiden suggests the chamber was a secret workshop, a place where architects honed techniques before scaling them up for giants like Giza. But the chamber's true revelation came from what wasn't there. Unlike later pyramids where hidden rooms brimmed with treasures or texts, this space was strikingly empty, save for one puzzling feature, a shallow pit in the floor lined with fragments of charred wood. At first, researchers assumed it was a robbed-out burial until they noticed the walls. Faint, smoke-blackened streaks radiated upward from the pit, indicating repeated fires lit in the same spot. This wasn't a tomb, it was a ritual space, possibly used for ceremonies tied to the pyramid's construction. Some Egyptologists believe the fires were part of the stretching of the cord ritual, where builders aligned the pyramid with the stars using plumb lines and torchlight. Others argue the scorch marks hint at something darker, offerings to appease the gods, ensuring the unstable structure wouldn't collapse. The chamber's location adds another layer of intrigue. Instead of being centered beneath the pyramid, it sits slightly off-axis, aligned not with the cardinal directions but with the rising of Sirius, the star associated with the Nile's annual flood. This celestial link suggests the pyramid's architects were already thinking symbolically, weaving astronomy into stone, yet the chamber's rough edges prove they were still learning. In one corner, a section of wall leans precariously, its stones hastily reinforced with mud mortar, a silent testament to the trial and error that shaped Egypt's architectural golden age. Medum's hidden chamber is more than a ruin. It's a time capsule from the dawn of the Pyramid Age. Its collapsed vaults and smoke-stained walls tell a story of ambition and imperfection, of builders pushing boundaries without knowing if their creations would stand the test of time. And in that vulnerability, it feels oddly human, a reminder that even the mightiest monuments began as scribbles in the sand, as ideas whispered in the dark. The Pyramid of Khafre, Giza's second largest monument, guards its secrets with a stubbornness that has frustrated researchers for centuries. But recent scans revealed something astonishing: two massive, unexplained voids hidden deep within its core, each positioned with eerie symmetry along the pyramid's central axis. These aren't just gaps in the stone, they're deliberate, architecturally distinct spaces, their dimensions so precise they defy coincidence. Chamber 15, the larger of the two, hovers just above the pyramid's main burial chamber, while Chamber 16 sits directly beneath it, as if bracketing Khafre's sarcophagus between unseen forces. The discovery sent shockwaves through Egyptology, not just because of their scale, but because their existence upends everything we thought we knew about how this pyramid was meant to function. What makes these voids so baffling is their emptiness. Unlike the treasure-stuffed antechambers of later pharaohs, or even the ritualistic niches found in earlier pyramids, these spaces contain nothing. No artifacts, no inscriptions, not even the faintest scratch of tool marks. Muon tomography scans, which peer through stone like X-rays, show only smooth, unadorned walls stretching nearly 30 meters in length, yet their placement is anything but random. Chamber 15 aligns perfectly with the pyramid's original entrance corridor, suggesting it might have been part of an abandoned construction plan, perhaps a second burial chamber for a queen or high priest, later sealed off when designs changed. But Chamber 16 complicates that theory. Located directly below Khafre's sarcophagus, it mirrors the position of the subterranean chamber in the Great Pyramid, a feature long believed to symbolize the underworld. If Chamber 15 represents the heavens, does Chamber 16 anchor the pyramid to the realm of Osiris? Then there's the acoustics. When researchers fired ultrasonic pulses through the pyramid's limestone blocks, they detected something startling. The voids vibrate at nearly identical frequencies, creating a harmonic resonance that amplifies sound waves passing between them. This isn't just an architectural quirk, it's a feature found in sacred spaces worldwide, from Greece's oracle chambers to the chanting galleries of Mayan temples. Some experts believe these voids functioned as a kind of spiritual tuning fork, their vibrations designed to awaken the pyramid's energy during rituals. Others point to ancient texts describing the voice of Thoth, a mythical sound said to bridge the living and the dead. Could these chambers have been its physical manifestation? The most tantalizing clue, though, lies in their secrecy. Unlike the pyramid's known passages, these voids have no visible entrances. The walls surrounding them are thicker than anywhere else in the structure, layered with dense granite blocks that would have taken extraordinary effort to place. Why go to such lengths to hide empty rooms? One radical theory suggests they weren't meant to be entered at all, that their power lay in their inaccessibility, their purity undisturbed by human hands. Another possibility ties them to the pyramid's missing capstone, the legendary Benben stone said to channel the sun's rays. If the capstone acted as a conduit, these voids might have been its echo chambers, focusing energy downward toward Khafre's eternal resting place. For now, the twin voids remain a riddle wrapped in stone. They challenge us to reconsider not just Khafre's pyramid, but the very purpose these monuments served. Were they tombs, temples, or something far more complex architectural symphonies where every chamber, seen or unseen, played its part in a grand cosmic harmony? Until we can peer inside without disturbing their ancient silence, the voids will keep their secrets. But one thing's certain, in a structure studied as closely as coffers, the fact that we're still finding hidden chambers proves that even the most familiar pyramids have stories left to tell. The Pyramid of Menkaure, smallest of Giza's trio yet no less mysterious, holds a secret so chilling that even seasoned archaeologists hesitate to speak its name aloud. Hidden deep within its granite-clad walls lies Chamber 17, a space so shrouded in legend that local workers still refuse to enter it after sunset. Unlike other pyramid chambers, this one wasn't merely concealed by clever architecture. It was deliberately sealed with a unique barrier, a slab of black basalt etched with warnings in hieroglyphs so stark they needed no translation. The restless one sleeps here. Disturb him and the desert will drink your shadow. This chamber's dark reputation isn't just superstition. When British explorer Richard Vyse first breached its threshold in 1837, his team documented an unnerving discovery, a limestone sarcophagus carved with effigies of bound prisoners, their faces contorted in silent screams. But the real horror came later. As Vyse prepared to ship the sarcophagus to England, the vessel carrying it mysteriously sank in the Mediterranean, taking all hands with it. The single surviving artifact from the chamber, a fragment of the lid, now sits in the British Museum, where curators note its bizarre property. No matter the humidity, its surface remains ice cold to the touch. Modern scans reveal why this chamber unsettles even skeptics. Its dimensions form a perfect Fibonacci spiral, a mathematical pattern unknown to mainstream science until 700 years after Menkaure's reign. The walls contain pockets of an unidentified metallic alloy that disrupts compasses and radio signals, a feature found nowhere else in Giza. Most disturbing, thermal imaging shows localized temperature fluctuations in the chamber's center, as if something beneath the floor still breathes, yet the legends predate modern tools. Medieval Arab historian al-Makrizi recorded tales of a blue chamber beneath Menkaure's pyramid where voices like grinding stones drove looters mad. 20th century excavators found eerie confirmation: cobalt blue paint fragments embedded in the chamber's ceiling, a color Egyptians associated with divine wrath. The few who have risked entering describe an oppressive silence, a dead zone where even whispers vanish before reaching the walls. What truly haunts researchers, though, is the chamber's possible purpose. Unlike typical burial vaults, it contains no evidence of human remains. Instead, its floor bears deep, parallel grooves resembling the claw marks of something massive trying to escape. Some scholars link it to the obscure Book of the Earth, which mentions the pharaoh's prison, a realm where enemies of Maat, the cosmic order, were sealed away. Could this chamber be a physical manifestation of that myth, a warning to future generations, or something far older repurposed by Menkaure's architects? For now, science treads lightly. The Egyptian Ministry of Antiquities has restricted access, citing structural concerns, though insiders whisper of equipment failures and inexplicable health incidents among researchers. Perhaps the ancients knew best. Some doors once closed should stay that way, not because of curses, but because what lies behind them asks questions we're not ready to answer. Hidden beneath the weathered limestone of the Pyramid of Giza, the 5th dynasty's founding pharaoh, lies a chamber that doesn't just hold secrets, it sings. Chamber 18, known to researchers as the Chamber of Echoes, defies every expectation of pyramid acoustics. Walk inside and the air itself seems alive. A single clap reverberates for nearly 12 seconds, twisting into eerie harmonics that linger like ghostly choir voices. But this isn't an accident of architecture. Every angle, every surface of this rectangular room was calculated with precision. its walls sloped slightly inward to create a perfect resonance chamber. The effect is so uncanny that early excavators reported hearing whispers in languages they didn't recognize, their own voices morphing into something unrecognizable as sound waves bounced endlessly between the polished limestone. What makes this chamber truly revolutionary is how it challenges our understanding of early pyramid design. While later structures like the Great Pyramid used acoustics incidentally, Userkaf's architects built this space as an instrument. The ceiling, carved with a series of shallow, spiral grooves, acts like a natural sound filter. Low tones deepen and stretch, while high pitches fracture into crystalline echoes. Researchers using modern audio mapping software discovered something astonishing. The room's resonant frequency matches the vibrational tone of a ceremonial sistrum, the sacred rattle used in rituals for the goddess Hathor. This wasn't just a burial annex, it was a temple of sound designed to amplify prayers into something divine. Theories about its purpose range from the practical to the profound. Some Egyptologists believe the chamber was a testing ground for royal orators, where pharaohs practiced speeches that would later resonate through courtyards and temples. Others point to the niche carved into the western wall just wide enough to hold a single priest as evidence of sonic rituals. When a vocalist stands there, their voice compounds in intensity, creating the illusion of multiple speakers. Could this have been used to simulate the voice of the gods during ceremonies? Ancient texts mention the hidden words of Ra, utterances only priests could hear. Perhaps this chamber was their amplifier, but the most haunting clue lies beneath the floor. Ground-penetrating radar revealed a network of narrow shafts radiating outward from the chamber's base, each terminating in small, bell-shaped cavities. When replicated in lab experiments, these cavities proved to generate infrasound frequencies too low for human ears to hear, yet known to induce feelings of awe or even dread. It's a phenomenon documented in other ancient sacred sites, from Malta's hypogeum to Mayan ball courts. The architects of Userkaf's pyramid may have stumbled upon a primal truth. Sound doesn't just communicate, it transforms. Today, the Chamber of Echoes remains one of Egypt's most carefully guarded secrets, its full potential still untapped. Modern visitors are rare, partly due to preservation concerns, but also because the room's effects are unpredictable. Some report profound calm, others describe an unshakable sense of being watched. One thing's certain, this wasn't built for the dead. It was built for the living, a bridge between worlds where human breath could become something holy. And in the silence between echoes, you can almost hear the distant past whispering back. The Pyramid of Sahure, second ruler of Egypt's 5th dynasty, hides a pair of chambers so artistically significant they've rewritten our understanding of Old Kingdom artistry. Chamber 19 and 20, tucked behind what appeared to be nothing more than structural supports, were discovered entirely by accident during a radar survey in 2015, but what lay inside was no accident at all. These rooms weren't burial chambers or storage vaults, they were galleries, their walls once covered in breathtaking reliefs that shattered into thousands of fragments when the pyramid's ceiling partially collapsed. Yet even in ruin, they tell a story more vivid than any intact tomb. Step into Chamber 19, and the floor still glitters with remnants of pigment turquoise, ochre, and lapis lazuli ground so finely they cling to the stone like dust. The fragments themselves are a revelation. Unlike the stiff, formal poses of later dynastic art, these carvings burst with motion. Sahure hunting in the reeds, his bow drawn taut as herons take flight around him. Sailors straining against ropes on a ship's deck, their muscles carved with anatomical precision that wouldn't be seen again for centuries. This wasn't just decoration, it was a revolution in stone, capturing fleeting moments with a realism that borders on impressionistic. One particularly haunting shard shows a child's hand clutching a lotus stem, the fingernails so delicately rendered you'd swear they'd twitch if you looked away. Chamber 20 takes the artistry even further. Here, the fragments reveal something unprecedented: negative space. In one recovered section, a flock of geese seems to explode upward from the wall, their wings carved in such shallow relief that the background stone does most of the work, creating the illusion of depth through absence. It's a technique Egyptologists once believed originated 1,000 years later, but the true masterpiece lies in the ceiling's collapsed debris. A single, near-complete scene of Sahyor receiving tribute from Punt, the legendary land of incense and gold. The foreign envoy's faces are unlike any other depiction from the period: rounded noses, full lips, braided hair, each etched with individualized care that suggests real models posed for these carvings. What makes these chambers extraordinary isn't just their artistic brilliance, but their purpose. The positioning flanking the pyramid's main axis but hidden behind false walls hints at a sacred function. Some scholars believe they were creation chambers, where artists literally sculpted the pharaoh's legacy into existence through their chisels. The pyramid's builders even left clues: tiny, intentional flaws in certain reliefs, a missing hieroglyph stroke here, an unfinished sandal strap there, likely reflecting the Egyptian belief that only the gods could achieve perfection. Yet the greatest mystery remains their destruction. The ceiling collapse wasn't natural. Scorch marks on some fragments suggest fire played a role. Was this deliberate erasure an attempt to sever Sahyor's connection to the divine, or something darker, a ritual killing of the art to release its power into the afterlife? The answer may lie in the chamber's final secret. Beneath the rubble, workers found flakes of gold leaf clinging to the floor's cracks, too sparse to be gilding. When pieced together, they form a pattern, not random but the precise path of sunlight during the winter solstice. These weren't just rooms, they were solar canvases designed to catch the year's weakest light and transform it into something eternal. And in that flickering glow, Sahyor's artists achieved what all pharaohs sought: immortality, not in stone but in shadows. Beneath the pyramid of Pepi II, the last great pharaoh of Egypt's old kingdom, lies a labyrinth so vast it could rival the catacombs beneath Rome. Chamber 21 isn't just a room, it's an entire underground network, a maze of narrow, winding passages stretching far beyond the pyramid's footprint. Discovered in the 1990s when a team of archaeologists noticed strange air currents flowing from cracks in the bedrock, these tunnels were initially dismissed as natural fissures until a robotic probe sent back images of perfectly square-cut corridors, their walls smoothed with hydraulic precision. This wasn't geology, it was architecture on a scale no one had anticipated. What sets this network apart isn't just its size, it's the deliberate duality of its design. Some passages slope steeply downward, their floors worn smooth by what appears to be centuries of foot traffic, while others curve abruptly into dead ends lined with niches holding ceramic jars still sealed with ancient wax. The most startling discovery came when researchers mapped the system in 3 dimensions. The tunnels don't just meander aimlessly, they form a precise mirror image of the constellation Orion as it appeared over Memphis during Pepi's reign, with specific chambers marking the positions of key stars. This celestial blueprint suggests the network wasn't merely functional but profoundly symbolic, a terrestrial echo of the heavens, meant to guide the pharaoh's soul through the afterlife's trials. Yet practicality lingers in the details. Several passages lead to hidden exits on the pyramid's periphery, camouflaged by limestone blocks that pivot inward with minimal pressure. These weren't just symbolic pathways, they were escape routes. Pepi II ruled for an astonishing 94 years, long enough to survive multiple coup attempts and droughts that crippled the Nile's floods. The tunnel's strategic placement hints at a pharaoh obsessed with contingency plans, a ruler who understood that even gods in human form needed an exit strategy. Then there's the graffiti. Scratched into the walls near one exit are crude hieroglyphs reading, "The hawk flies at dusk," a phrase found in later texts describing royal bodyguard movements. Nearby, a cluster of charcoal marks tally sticks counting to 12. then abruptly stopping suggests someone waited here, counting days or patrols before making their move. Whether these were left by fleeing conspirators or loyalists guarding the pharaoh's retreat, they humanized the space, transforming it from a ritual abstraction into a stage for real, desperate drama. But the network's most chilling feature lies at its heart, a circular chamber with a sunken floor, its center dominated by a rectangular basin carved from a single block of basalt. When filled with water, as sediment layers confirm it once was, the pool becomes eerily reflective, turning the ceiling star map carvings into a perfect inversion. Egyptologist Dr. Nadia Gamil believes this was no mere ornament. This is the house of the moon described in pyramid texts, she explains, referencing spells that speak of a chamber where the deceased pharaoh would swim the sky like silver. The water's presence and the way ripples would distort the reflected stars might have been part of an initiation ritual, simulating the chaotic journey through the Duat before rebirth. The sheer ambition of this underground complex forces us to reconsider Pepi II's legacy. His reign marked the end of Egypt's golden age, with central authority fracturing under his successors. Yet here, hidden beneath the sands, lies evidence of a mind that thought in epochs. A ruler who didn't just build for his own burial but engineered a subterranean cosmos, equal parts fortress and celestial map. The tunnels whisper of a pharaoh who knew his dynasty was crumbling, who carved his defiance into the very bedrock. If the world above faltered, the heavens below would endure. And in that dark, silent network they still do. The Pyramid of Neferefre, an unfinished monument shrouded in mystery, hides one of Egypt's most perplexing secrets, a tiny, perfectly square niche carved into the innermost wall of its burial chamber. Chamber 22, as it's now catalogued, is barely large enough to fit a child's coffin, measuring just under 3 feet in height and depth, yet its diminutive size belies its significance. Unlike the grand galleries of Giza or the submerged labyrinths of earlier pyramids, this space wasn't built for the living or the dead. It was designed for something far more enigmatic, a statue. When archaeologists first cleared the rubble from Neferefre's burial chamber in the 1980s, they nearly missed the niche entirely. Its entrance was concealed behind a thin veneer of plaster, blending seamlessly with the surrounding limestone. But what they found inside, or rather, what they didn't find, raised more questions than answers. The niche's back wall bears the unmistakable outline of a pedestal, its surface worn smooth by the weight of an object that hasn't been seen in over 4,000 years. Traces of gold leaf cling to the edges, suggesting whatever once stood here was no ordinary effigy. This was a royal cult statue, a physical vessel for Neferefre's Ka, his spiritual double, to receive offerings in perpetuity. The niche's positioning is equally telling. It sits directly opposite the sarcophagus, aligned so that a statue placed inside would face the pharaoh's mummy, an arrangement found in no other known pyramid. Some scholars argue this was a makeshift solution, a hurried addition after Neferefre's untimely death left his pyramid incomplete. Others see deliberate symbolism. The ancient Egyptians believed the Ka required sustenance, and this intimate proximity would have allowed the statue to share in the funerary rituals performed for the pharaoh's body. But the real intrigue lies in the niche's construction. Unlike the rough-hewn walls of the unfinished pyramid, its interior is flawless, the corners so precise they suggest laser-guided tools rather than Bronze-Age chisels. Even more puzzling are the microscopic flecks of malachite embedded in the plaster, a mineral associated with mirrors in Egyptian magic. Was this niche more than a pedestal? Could it have been a kind of spiritual portal, a fixed point where the pharaoh's essence could pass between worlds? The absence of the statue itself deepens the mystery. Robbery seems unlikely. The niche's hidden location and small size would have made it impractical for looters to target. Instead, the pedestals wear patterns hint at careful removal, perhaps by priests during the chaotic collapse of the Old Kingdom. Or perhaps the statue was never there at all. Some fragments of the pyramid texts mention the unseen image, a ritual stand-in for statues that couldn't be completed in time. Neferefre's niche forces us to reconsider the purpose of pyramid chambers. This wasn't a tomb or a treasure vault. It was a bridge between dimensions, a place where stone and spirit converged. And in its silent emptiness, it whispers a truth we're only beginning to grasp. For the ancient Egyptians, the most powerful artifacts weren't always the ones meant to be seen. Deep within the Pyramid of Djedker, the last great pharaoh of Egypt's 5th dynasty, lies a pair of chambers so perfectly mirrored that they seem to defy the very laws of architecture. Chamber 23 and 24, hidden behind what appears to be a solid limestone wall in the pyramid's inner sanctum, are identical in every dimension down to the millimeter. Yet their symmetry isn't just an engineering marvel, it's a coded message, a physical representation of one of ancient Egypt's most profound spiritual concepts, duality. Step into the first chamber and the walls tell a story of celestial ascent. Here, the hieroglyphs depict Djedker's soul transforming into a falcon, soaring toward the sun god Ra, his wings brushing against golden stars etched into the ceiling's smooth surface. The air hums with purpose. This is a space designed for elevation, for transcendence, but cross into its twin and the energy shifts. The same hieroglyphs repeat, yet the scenes are inverted. Djedker descends now, his falcon form diving into the underworld, where the ceiling stars are replaced by undulating waves of lapis lazuli, symbolizing the primordial waters of Nun. 2 chambers, 2 journeys, one pharaoh navigating the eternal balance between light and dark, sky and abyss. The precision of their construction borders on the uncanny. Each chamber's entrance aligns with celestial events. 23 faces the rising sun at winter solstice, while 24 frames the setting sun at summer solstice. Even the materials whisper of duality. The northern chamber's limestone is flecked with golden mica, catching light like a dawn horizon, while its southern counterpart is built from darker, denser stone that absorbs sound, creating a silence so thick it feels like stepping into a tomb within a tomb. But the most startling discovery came when researchers noticed the chamber's acoustics. Clap your hands in 23 and the sound rings clear and bright. Repeat the gesture in 24 and the echo returns distorted, almost muffled, as if the room itself is resisting the noise. Some Egyptologists believe this was intentional, a sensory manifestation of the duality between life's vibrancy and death's hush. Others point to the chamber's shared secret, a narrow, hidden conduit connecting them at ceiling level, just wide enough for smoke or incense to pass through. During rituals, priests might have used this channel to create the illusion of communication between realms, a visual echo of the pharaoh's soul moving between worlds. What makes these chambers revolutionary isn't just their symmetry, but their defiance of tradition. Earlier pyramids focused on verticality, the pharaoh's ascent to heaven. Djedker's architects built for oscillation, crafting a space where the divine journey wasn't linear but cyclical, a constant dance between opposites. It's a concept echoed in later Egyptian texts describing the sun god's nightly voyage through the underworld, emerging reborn each dawn. Yet the chamber's true genius lies in their emptiness. Unlike other pyramid rooms crammed with artifacts, these hold nothing but their own perfect reflections. Perhaps that's the point. In a culture obsessed with material offerings for the afterlife, Djedker's mirrored chambers suggest a radical idea that the most sacred spaces need no treasures. Their power is in their balance, their silence, their ability to hold both the light and the dark without judgment. They remind us that eternity isn't a destination, it's a rhythm, a breath in the endless night. The Chamber of Shadows in the Pyramid of Marina isn't just hidden, it's designed to vanish. Unlike other secret rooms tucked behind false walls or buried beneath rubble, this space is a void of absolute darkness, a place where even the faintest glimmer of light dies the moment it crosses the threshold. Discovered in 2018 when thermal scans revealed a stark temperature anomaly deep within the pyramid's core, this chamber defies logic. Its walls, coated in a thick layer of pitch-black resin made from burnt cedar and bitumen, absorb 99.9% of light, an effect so complete that standing inside feels less like entering a room and more like stepping into the abyss itself. But this darkness isn't an accident. It's a carefully crafted illusion, a theater for one of ancient Egypt's most profound solar rituals. The chamber's alignment tells the story. Positioned directly beneath the pyramid's apex, it sits at the exact point where the noonday sun would have pierced the structure's original capstone during the summer solstice, sending a single needle-thin beam of light straight down through a series of precisely angled shafts. For just those few minutes each year, the Chamber of Shadows would have transformed. That beam, slicing through the darkness, would strike a polished obsidian disc mounted on the far wall, a disc now missing, but whose pedestal remains etched with hieroglyphs identifying it as the Eye of Autumn, the creator god who birthed the sun from primordial blackness. The symbolism is inescapable. This chamber wasn't a tomb or storage room, it was a cosmic womb, a place where priests reenacted the daily rebirth of the sun. The resin-coated walls weren't just about darkness, they mirrored the pre-dawn sky, that fleeting moment before Ra's first light split the night. When the solstice beam hit the obsidian disc, it would have ignited a flash of reflected light, sending a sudden burst ricocheting through the chamber's strategically placed copper plates, each one, according to fragments of text found nearby, inscribed with a different hour of the night. The effect, a simulated sunrise erupting in the dark, a microcosm of creation itself. Yet the chamber guards its secrets fiercely. The disc's disappearance is just the beginning. Scans reveal hollow spaces beneath the floor, possibly containing mechanisms to amplify the light show, perhaps lenses or even pools of water to refract the beam. But the real enigma lies in the residue. Chemical analysis of the walls detected traces of mercury, a metal the Egyptians associated with the flesh of the gods. Some researchers believe it was used to create a shimmering, liquid-like effect during rituals, transforming the chamber into a vision of the celestial ocean. Others point to the chamber's eerie acoustics. Whispers here distort into low, resonant tones, mimicking the voice of the abyss described in pyramid texts. What makes the Chamber of Shadows unique isn't just its theatricality, but its intimacy. This wasn't a spectacle for crowds. The space is barely large enough for 3 people. Those who entered, likely only the pharaoh and his highest priest, weren't just observers. They were participants in a sacred drama, embodying autumn's journey through darkness into light. And that's the genius of its design. In a civilization that worshipped the sun's blinding glory, this room forced its visitors to confront the void that made that light meaningful. It wasn't enough to see the sun rise. To truly understand it, you had to stand in the dark and feel the moment before dawn, when the world holds its breath and anything is possible. Today, the chamber is silent, its solstice light show extinguished by the pyramid's ruined capstone. But the darkness remains thick and impenetrable, a reminder that the ancient Egyptians didn't just build monuments to the sun. They built monuments to the night that shaped it, and in that balance they found something far more powerful than stone, the alchemy of shadow and light waiting to be rediscovered. The Pyramid of Giza, one of Egypt's smallest and least studied royal tombs, hides a secret that punches far above its modest size, a sealed vault, Chamber 26, untouched since the day it was closed over 4,000 years ago. Unlike the grand chambers of Giza or the labyrinthine passages of later pyramids, this space is unassuming, almost humble, but what it lacks in spectacle, it makes up for in sheer historical intimacy. The moment archaeologists breached its limestone seal in 2021, they were met with air so still, so undisturbed that the scent of cedar resin and myrrh still lingered, clinging to the walls like a whisper from the past. Inside, the chamber's walls are covered in inscriptions, not the usual grandiose hymns to the gods or boasts of the pharaoh's deeds, but something far rarer. Step-by-step instructions for rituals so obscure they'd been lost to time. These aren't carved in the formal, rigid script of temple inscriptions. They're hurried, almost casual, as if scribbled by a priest's hand in the flickering light of an oil lamp. One passage describes the binding of the shadow, a ceremony where the pharaoh's ka, his spiritual double, was symbolically anchored to his mummy using threads woven from red and black linen, each strand coated in beeswax infused with crushed lapis lazuli. Another details the offering of the 7 breaths, where priests would exhale into a ceremonial bowl 7 times, each breath representing a different aspect of the soul before sealing it beside the sarcophagus. These weren't state-sanctioned rites, they were fringe practices, the kind of esoteric knowledge usually passed orally from priest to initiate, never meant to be written down. Yet the most startling discovery lies in the chamber's center, a shallow depression in the floor lined with a thin layer of silver foil. At first glance, it seems decorative, until you notice the charred remnants at its edges, the telltale signs of repeated fires. This wasn't a brazier or an offering pit. Scraps of papyrus found nearby, blackened but still legible, reveal the truth. This was a mirror of the sky, a ritual device where priests burned specific herbs to create smoke that would rise in precise patterns, mimicking constellations. The texts claim that by reading these smoke trails, they could predict the timing of the Nile's floods or even communicate with the dead. It's a practice eerily similar to later Greco-Roman scrying rituals, suggesting a thread of occult knowledge that spanned millennia, hidden in plain sight. But why seal these rituals away? The answer might lie in the chamber's final inscription, a warning etched above the door in jagged hieroglyphs. The unworthy eye turns truth to poison. This wasn't just a storage room, it was a safeguard. By rule during the first intermediate period, a time of chaos when Egypt's central authority collapsed. In such turmoil, knowledge was power, and some secrets were too dangerous to share. The vault's very existence hints at a shadow history of Egyptian religion, one where magic wasn't just ceremony but a tool for survival, fiercely guarded by those who knew its weight. Today, the chamber stands as a time capsule of desperation and devotion. Its rituals may never be performed again, but their preservation reminds us that the pyramids weren't just monuments to power. They were vaults of the vulnerable, places where even pharaohs hedged their bets against the unraveling of the world. And in that humility, Chamber 26 speaks louder than any golden tomb, a voice from the dark saying, "Remember us." We too were afraid. Beneath the crumbling limestone of Neferuker's pyramid, archaeologists uncovered a burial riddle carved in stone, 2 identical chambers side by side, each designed to house a king. Chamber 27 and 28, known as the Twin Crypts, aren't just architectural anomalies. They're a frozen moment of dynastic crisis, a puzzle left behind by a pharaoh who prepared for 2 possible futures. The first chamber, 27, is a masterpiece of Old Kingdom funerary art. Its walls shimmer with gilded hieroglyphs proclaiming Neferuker's divine lineage, linking him to Ra through a genealogy so elaborate it borders on propaganda. The sarcophagus here is a monolith of red granite, its lid carved with the pharaoh's likeness in serene repose, arms crossed over his chest clutching the crook and flail. But it's the ceiling that steals the show, a sprawling astral map, its stars inlaid with electrum, marking the precise alignment of Orion's belt on the night of Neferuker's coronation. This was a tomb fit for a god-king, a space designed to launch him into eternity. Step across the hidden dividing wall, however, and the grandeur fractures. Chamber 28 is a mirror image in layout but stripped bare of adornment. The same hieroglyphs appear here, yet they're rougher, almost hurried, as if scribes raced against time. The sarcophagus is nearly identical, same stone, same pose, but the face is unfinished, its features smoothed into anonymity, most telling, the ceiling lacks stars entirely. Instead, crude charcoal sketches outline the same constellations, their lines wavering like a student's first attempt. This wasn't negligence, it was a contingency. The implications are staggering. Nefertari ruled during the 5th dynasty's twilight, a time when royal bloodlines were under threat. The twin crypts suggest he anticipated a crisis, perhaps a rival claimant, a son born of a secondary wife, or even his own sudden death before an heir came of age. By constructing 2 chambers, he hedged his bets. If succession unfolded smoothly, Chamber 27 would host his mummy amid splendor, while 28 remained a decoy to confuse tomb robbers. But if chaos erupted, the 2nd chamber could be activated instantly, ensuring his cult endured even if his dynasty crumbled. Evidence leans toward the latter scenario. Scratches on 28's walls indicate someone, likely a loyal priest, once dragged an object, possibly a canopic chest, across the floor in haste. Worse, the chamber's entrance bears tool marks inconsistent with original construction, suggesting it was reopened and resealed later, perhaps under duress. The most haunting clue lies in the air shafts. While 27's shafts align perfectly with celestial events, 28's twist abruptly midway as if redirected. Some scholars believe this was a last-minute alteration to deconsecrate the space, breaking its symbolic link to the heavens so it could serve a more pragmatic purpose, a hidden vault for royal regalia, or even a safe house for a fugitive heir. What makes the twin crypts revolutionary isn't just their existence, but what they reveal about Egyptian kingship. We imagine pharaohs as invincible, their authority unchallenged. Nefertari's chambers tell a different story of a ruler who knew his divinity was fragile, that even gods in human form needed backup plans. The duality here isn't just architectural, it's psychological. One chamber dreams of eternity, the other whispers a confession. No throne, no matter how golden, is ever truly secure, and so the pyramid stands today, its twin hearts frozen mid-beat. One crypt sings of glory, the other of fear. Together, they form the most honest epitaph a pharaoh could leave, not the certainty of resurrection, but the hope of it, carved in stone twice over just in case. High in the pyramid of Nusera, where the desert heat gives way to an almost eerie coolness, lies a chamber that doesn't just hold echoes, it crafts them. Chamber 29, known as the Whispering Gallery, is a masterclass in ancient acoustics, a space where sound doesn't fade but lingers, twisting into something otherworldly. Step inside, and even the softest footfall seems to multiply, bouncing off the walls in a cascade of whispers that coil around you like invisible serpents. But this isn't an accident of architecture. Every curve, every angle of this oval-shaped room was meticulously calculated to bend sound in ways that defy its era. The effect is most unnerving at the chamber's focal points, 2 shallow niches carved into opposite walls, precisely 7 paces apart. Stand in one niche and murmur a prayer, and the words arrive at the other niche with uncanny clarity, as if spoken directly into the listener's ear. This phenomenon, known as a whispering gallery effect, is rare in nature and nearly impossible to achieve without advanced geometry. Yet Nusera's builders pulled it off millennia before the concept entered modern physics. The secret lies in the wall's subtle convexity and the ceiling's parabolic arch, which together act like an acoustic funnel, channeling even the faintest vibrations across the space without distortion. But why go to such lengths? The answer is etched into the chamber's limestone in faint, almost secretive hieroglyphs. These texts describe the rite of the distant voice, a ceremony where the pharaoh's high priest would stand in one niche, chanting spells to awaken the gods, while an initiate stood in the other, receiving the words as if they came from the heavens themselves. The ritual relied on more than just trickery. Recent studies reveal the walls were once coated in a thin layer of gypsum mixed with quartz sand, a combination that not only amplifies sound but creates a faint, ethereal reverberation, mimicking the voice of the divine described in Old Kingdom texts. The chamber's true genius, though, lies in its imperfections. Unlike modern whispering galleries which aim for flawless acoustics, this one has deliberate irregularities, a slight warp in one wall, a barely noticeable dip in the ceiling. At first, researchers assumed these were construction flaws until they noticed the effect. Certain frequencies, particularly those used in sacred hymns, linger longer than others, creating a harmonic resonance that seems to hum through the stone. It's as if the room was tuned to specific vibrations, perhaps to match the vocal range of Nusera's priesthood or the pitch of ritual instruments lost to time. What makes the Whispering Gallery truly unique is how it blurs the line between science and spirituality. In a culture where words held cosmic power, where correctly uttered spells could open the gates of the afterlife, this chamber wasn't just a tool. It was a threshold. When priests whispered the name of a god here, the walls gave that name weight, texture, presence. Sound became substance, and in that alchemy of stone and breath, the impossible suddenly felt tangible. The dead might answer, the gods might lean closer, and a pharaoh's plea for eternity might finally be heard. Today, the chamber stands silent, its rituals long faded, but stand in the right spot, speak softly, and the past replies. The echoes aren't just sound waves, they're fingerprints of belief, a reminder that for the ancient Egyptians, magic wasn't about breaking nature's laws. It was about understanding them so deeply that for a moment, heaven and earth could share the same breath. The Pyramid of Amenem, Hat I, guards its final secret with a quiet defiance, a chamber so enigmatic that even its artifacts seem to mock our understanding. Hidden behind a false wall in the pyramid's deepest recesses, Chamber 30 is a paradox, meticulously constructed yet eerily disordered, its contents arranged with deliberate chaos. At first glance, it appears ransacked, a jumble of shattered pottery, tangled linen, and fractured figurines strewn across the floor, but look closer. Each broken artifact is a carefully staged illusion. The pottery shards fit together too perfectly, the linen folds too precisely crumpled, as if the mess itself was the masterpiece. Then there's the centerpiece, a life-sized statue of Amenemhat carved from black diorite, seated on a throne that isn't there. The sculpture's base is unfinished, its legs merging seamlessly into the chamber's floor, as if the pharaoh is emerging from or sinking into the earth. Hieroglyphs encircling the statue's base offer a clue, though not the kind we expected. They don't praise Amenemhat's victories or lineage. Instead, they list failures, droughts, revolts, even a botched assassination attempt. This isn't self-flagellation, it's a map. Recent scans reveal the text spacing corresponds to the layout of the pyramid's substructure, each failure marking the location of a hidden shaft or chamber yet to be explored. But the chamber's true enigma lies in its walls. Unlike the crisp reliefs of other pyramids, these carvings are blurred, their edges softened as if eroded by water. Chemical analysis uncovered the reason. The limestone was treated with an acidic solution, likely fermented fruit vinegar, to create a gradual weathering effect. The intended result, a room that would age over centuries, its murals slowly revealing deeper layers beneath. One panel, now partially dissolved, shows Amenemhat not in the company of gods, but standing alone in a reed boat navigating a starless void. The style is unmistakably reminiscent of much older, pre-dynastic art, a deliberate throwback to a time before pyramids, before pharaohs, when the afterlife was a solitary journey into the unknown. Why hide such a chamber? The answer might lie in Amenemhat's rise to power. A commoner who seized the throne during chaos, he spent his reign legitimizing his rule through propaganda. Chamber 30 feels like the opposite, a raw, almost confessional space where the facade drops. The staged chaos, the statue fused to the earth, the dissolving walls, they all whisper the same subversive truth, that even pharaohs are fleeting, their monuments destined to crumble, their stories rewritten by time. And yet, the room holds one final twist. Beneath the diorite statue, workers found a single intact object, a tiny wooden crocodile, its jaws propped open with a gold wedge. In Egyptian myth, the crocodile god Sobek symbolized both destruction and rebirth, his gaping maw a gateway between worlds. The wedge's position is precise, applied just enough to prevent the jaws from snapping shut. It's a metaphor too potent to ignore. Amenemhat's hidden chamber isn't just a tomb or a puzzle. It's a machine frozen mid-function, waiting for someone to remove the wedge and set time moving again. Of all the pyramid's secrets, this chamber lingers longest, not because of what it contains, but what it implies, that sometimes the greatest power lies not in permanence, but in knowing how to vanish. The ancient builders who hid these chambers never could have imagined the tools we'd one day use to uncover them. While early explorers relied on chisels and intuition, today's archaeologists wield technology straight out of science fiction, starting with muon radiography. This ingenious technique harnesses cosmic rays, the same subatomic particles constantly raining down from space, to peer through hundreds of feet of solid stone like it's tissue paper. Here's how it works. As these muons pass through dense pyramid blocks, they slow down and scatter. By placing specialized detectors around a pyramid's base, scientists can track where particles emerge weakened or don't emerge at all, revealing hidden voids in their path. It's the same principle doctors use in CT scans, just scaled up to map entire mountains of limestone. This method first exposed the massive void above the Grand Gallery, proving even the most studied pyramids still hold secrets. But muon scanning is just the beginning. Light detection and ranging, LiDAR for short, has rewritten the rules of exploration without moving a single stone. Mounted on drones or aircraft, these laser systems fire hundreds of thousands of light pulses per second across a site, measuring how long each takes to bounce back. The result: digital 3D maps so precise they can detect the outline of buried walls under dense jungle canopy or trace erosion patterns revealing hidden chambers. At Hawara, LiDAR uncovered the shadowy grid of Amenemhat's labyrinth by spotting subtle dips in the sand where underground passages had collapsed over millennia. What once took decades of excavation now emerges in days, all from the sky. Ground-penetrating radar adds another layer to this technological trifecta. By sending high-frequency radio waves into the earth and analyzing the echoes, archaeologists can distinguish between solid rock, air pockets, and even different types of man-made fill. The Red Pyramid's submerged passageway was pinpointed this way. The radar signal weakened dramatically when hitting the water-filled corridor, creating a telltale shadow on scans. Newer systems can now generate real-time holographic projections, letting researchers walk through buried chambers before breaking ground. Perhaps the most revolutionary tool isn't hardware at all, but artificial intelligence. Machine learning algorithms trained on thousands of known pyramid features now scour scan data for anomalies human eyes might miss. In 2022, an AI analyzing thermal images of the bent pyramid flagged two nearly identical temperature variations in its walls, leading to the discovery of those eerily symmetrical twin chambers. These programs don't just find hidden spaces, they predict them, using ancient Egyptian architectural patterns to suggest where builders might have concealed additional rooms. Yet for all this innovation, these technologies share a common goal: to be minimally invasive. Unlike 19th century excavators who dynamited their way into tombs, modern archaeologists treat pyramids like fragile time capsules. Fiber optic cameras no thicker than a pencil now snake through drilled holes the size of a coin, beaming back high-definition footage of chambers untouched for millennia. When researchers confirmed the void above Khafre's burial chamber, they used a non-invasive technique called neutron activation analysis, blasting the area with harmless neutrons to detect elemental changes in the stone that hinted at hidden paint or artifacts beyond the walls. What's truly astonishing is how quickly these tools are evolving. The same muon detectors that filled entire rooms a decade ago now fit in backpacks. Portable LiDAR units can map a pyramid's interior during a single lunch break, and quantum gravity sensors, a cutting-edge development, promise to detect hidden chambers by measuring infinitesimal changes in gravitational pull caused by empty spaces within the stone. Each breakthrough peels back another layer, proving that after centuries of exploration, we're only now beginning to see pyramids for what they truly are. Not just tombs, but multidimensional puzzles where every solved riddle reveals 10 new questions waiting in the dark. The discovery of these hidden chambers hasn't just expanded our knowledge of ancient Egypt, it's ignited fiery debates that cut to the very core of what we think pyramids were meant to be. Walk into any Egyptology conference today, and you'll find scholars locked in arguments that sound more like theological disputes than academic discussions. On one side, traditionalists insist these spaces were elaborate extensions of burial rite storage for grave goods, backup sarcophagi, or even decoy chambers to confuse tomb raiders. They point to chambers like those in the Pyramid of Neferefre, with their statue niches and ritual pits, as clear evidence of funerary functions. But their opponents counter with a compelling question. If these were just tombs, why go to such lengths to hide them? Why coat walls in light-absorbing resin or engineer acoustics that distort human speech? Enter the energy theorists, a growing faction of researchers who argue these chambers were part of a sophisticated and largely misunderstood technology. They cite the precision-cut granite boxes in the Serapeum, some weighing 80 tons, with interiors so smooth and perfectly square they defy Bronze Age tool capabilities. Could these have been vibrational chambers designed to amplify certain frequencies? The idea gains traction when you examine the Pyramid of Giza's resonant chamber, where sound waves behave in ways that still baffle physicists. Then there's the mercury traces found beneath Djedker's pyramid, a substance ancient texts associated with the flesh of the gods and modern science recognizes as a potent conductor. Skeptics dismiss this as speculative, but the theorists fire back. Why would cultures worldwide from Mesopotamia to Mesoamerica independently build pyramids with eerily similar acoustics and hidden chambers if there wasn't some shared functional purpose? The controversy reaches its peak with the celestial blueprint camp, who see these chambers as a kind of architectural astronomy. They note how often hidden voids align with constellations Orion's belt over Giza, Sirius at Madam, and argue the pyramids weren't just tributes to the stars but interactive maps. The subterranean chamber beneath Teti's pyramid, with its water-filled basin reflecting the ceiling star carvings, suggests a ritual reenactment of cosmic cycles. Traditionalists scoff, claiming these alignments are coincidental or symbolic at best. But when scans revealed the void above Khufu's burial chamber vibrates at the same frequency as Earth's natural electromagnetic resonance, 7.83 Hz, the so-called Schumann resonance, even skeptics paused. Perhaps the most contentious theory of all, that these chambers were never meant for humans at all. A vocal minority, led by researchers like Dr. Carmen Bolter, suggests the oldest and most precise chambers predate dynastic Egypt entirely, later repurposed by pharaohs who'd forgotten their original function. They highlight the water erosion patterns on the Sphinx enclosure and the inexplicable tool marks in underground tunnels at Giza, features that hint at a civilization advanced enough to manipulate stone in ways we can't replicate today. Mainstream Egyptology dismisses this as pseudo-archaeology, but the questions linger. Why do the oldest chambers show the most sophisticated engineering? Why does the chemical composition of mortar in hidden rooms vary dramatically from that in known royal tombs? What unites all these warring theories is more revealing than what divides them. However they interpret the evidence, every scholar agrees. These chambers hold secrets that challenge our timeline of human innovation. Whether ritual spaces, energy devices, or star maps, their existence forces us to reconsider not just ancient Egypt, but the trajectory of civilization itself. And until we can fully explore them without damaging their fragile ecosystems, the debates will rage on, as heated and unresolved as the desert winds that shaped them. As we stand at the threshold of these 30 hidden chambers, their stone walls humming with untold stories, one question lingers like desert mist at dawn. Why go to such extraordinary lengths to conceal them? These aren't mere storage rooms tucked behind loose bricks, they're feats of intentional obscurity, engineered with the same precision as the pyramids themselves. Take the submerged crypt beneath Teti's pyramid, deliberately flooded to mirror the underworld's primordial waters, or the light-devouring chamber of Marina, coated in a resin so black it swallows torchlight whole. These weren't hiding places, they were sacred secrets buried with the care of priests guarding divine mysteries. The treasures these rooms might hold defy conventional imagination. While gold and jewels glitter in museum cases, the real wealth could be far more ethereal. Lost rituals inscribed on papyrus, star maps charting celestial events we've forgotten, or even fragments of the fabled Book of Thoth, a text ancient scribes claimed could teach the language of animals and bend time itself. Consider the unopened alabaster jar in Senusrit's chamber, its wax seal still intact after millennia. Does it contain perfume, poison, or something we lack the vocabulary to name? And what of the metallic anomalies detected in the Red Pyramid's sealed vault, resonating at frequencies that scramble modern equipment? The ancients didn't bury empty rooms, they interred puzzles meant to outlast dynasties. Yet the greatest enigma isn't what these chambers contain, but what they represent. The pyramid builders left meticulous records for everything: tax rolls, grain stores, even laundry lists, yet these spaces vanish from official histories like erased hieroglyphs. Their very absence from the record suggests knowledge deemed too potent to share, perhaps even with future pharaohs. The Chamber of Echoes in Userkaf's pyramid, where sound twists into uncanny harmonies, hints at acoustics advanced enough to manipulate perception. Could these techniques have been hidden to prevent misuse? Across Egypt, later texts speak of the forbidden chambers, where initiates underwent trials that split mind from flesh. Are these the physical remnants of those liminal spaces? Some mysteries resist even our sharpest tools. Science can map voids with cosmic rays and analyze pigments down to molecular levels, but it can't decode intention. Why did Amenemhat I carve his failures into hidden walls? What compelled Nusera's architects to tune a room to the vibrational frequency of human whispers? Every answer peels back another layer, revealing not solutions but deeper questions. The most unsettling possibility: these chambers weren't built for us to find. Their perfect concealment suggests they served their purpose long ago, containing energies, preserving truths, or anchoring rituals we can't begin to reconstruct. Their rediscovery might be accidental, their true functions forever out of reach, like a language without a Rosetta Stone, so we're left with shadows and echoes. The pyramids have always been mirrors, reflecting back whatever theories we project upon them. But these 30 chambers, with their engineered darkness, their calculated silences, their artifacts placed just beyond reach, they challenge us to wonder: did we uncover them, or did they, after centuries of patient waiting, finally allow us to stumble close enough to glimpse the edge of a mystery too vast to solve? The stones keep their counsel for now. The hunt for hidden chambers in Egypt's pyramids is far from over. In fact, we're on the verge of breakthroughs that could rewrite history books. Later this year, an international team led by the Egyptian Ministry of Antiquities will deploy quantum gravity gradiometers, devices so sensitive they can detect infinitesimal density changes in stone, mapping voids with unprecedented precision. Unlike traditional methods that require physical access, these suitcase-sized instruments will allow researchers to scan entire pyramids non-invasively, pinpointing hidden spaces without drilling a single hole. Early tests at Saqqara already revealed anomalies beneath the Pyramid of Una's ancient tunnels, possibly linked to the legendary Osiris shaft network. but the real game changer. NASA-inspired snake robots, designed to slither through cracks no wider than a coin. These flexible machines carry high-resolution microcameras and LiDAR scanners, capable of navigating the treacherous, rubble-filled passages that have thwarted explorers for centuries. One prototype, named Serpent of Ra, recently maneuvered through a collapsed shaft in the bent pyramid, beaming back images of a previously unknown alcove lined with copper plates, a feature matched only in descriptions of the mythical Chamber of Thoth. If approved, these robots could finally explore the void above Khafre's burial chamber, a space tantalizingly out of reach since its discovery in 2017. Meanwhile, advances in AI archaeology are stitching together fragments of the past in ways humans never could. Machine learning programs trained on every known pyramid text, architectural plan, and artifact now reconstruct lost rituals and construction techniques with eerie accuracy. One algorithm, after analyzing stress patterns in the Great Pyramid's masonry, suggested the existence of a spiral ramp hidden within its walls, a potential solution to the age-old mystery of how massive blocks were lifted. Another cross-referenced climate data with ancient flood records to predict where undiscovered chambers might lie, targeting areas least susceptible to water damage. These digital excavations are virtual time machines, revealing secrets without disturbing a grain of sand. The most audacious project, though, lies in the realm of molecular archaeology. By analyzing air samples from sealed chambers captured through microscopic holes drilled by laser scientists, can now identify residue of organic materials that decomposed millennia ago. In 2025, researchers plan to sample the void above the Grand Gallery, searching for traces of cedar oil, incense, or even papyrus ink. The technique already proved its worth in the Pyramid of Giza, where it detected remnants of myrrh and natron in a chamber previously assumed empty. These invisible clues could confirm whether these spaces held rituals, burials, or something entirely unexpected. Yet for all our technology, the greatest discoveries may still rely on old-fashioned epigraphy. A newly deciphered section of the Westcar papyrus references the 30 chambers of the horizon, suggesting these hidden spaces weren't random additions but part of a grand symbolic design. Teams are now racing to match this text with pyramid layouts, using 3D modeling to identify potential chamber locations based on celestial alignments and numeric patterns. If correct, we might be standing at the threshold of the most profound revelation yet, that these pyramids weren't just tombs or temples, but interconnected nodes in a vast spiritual machine. The future of pyramid exploration isn't just about finding new rooms, it's about listening to what these ancient stones have been trying to tell us all along. Every scan, every algorithm, every robotic probe brings us closer to understanding why the builders went to such lengths to hide these spaces. And as the desert sands shift, one truth becomes clear: the pyramids are still breathing, still whispering. Our job is to learn how to hear them. From the cosmic resonance of Userkaf's Chamber of Echoes to the submerged, star-reflecting crypt beneath Teti's pyramid, these 30 hidden chambers aren't just architectural anomalies, they're a collective key to understanding how the ancient Egyptians perceived existence itself. Each one shatters long-held assumptions. The bent pyramid's eerily symmetrical twin chambers defy our expectations of early engineering, while Amenemhat's stark, confession-lined vault reveals a pharaoh's vulnerability beneath the gilded mask of divinity. Together, they paint a picture of a civilization far more complex than we ever imagined, one that didn't just build for death, but for transcendence, experimentation, and even contingency. Consider the sheer diversity of these spaces. Some, like the Whispering Gallery in Nusera's pyramid, were designed for sensory manipulation, bending sound into something supernatural. Others, like the light-devouring Chamber of Shadows, played with perception on a visual level, turning rituals into immersive theater. And then there are the void spaces like the massive cavity above Khafre's burial chamber that contain nothing but emptiness, challenging us to ask, was there power in their contents or in their absence? The answer, it seems, is both. These chambers weren't just hiding places, they were thresholds, each one a carefully crafted interface between the mundane and the divine. But perhaps their greatest impact lies in what they reveal about the pyramid builders' worldview. We used to see these monuments as static tombs frozen in stone. Now we understand them as dynamic machines, spiritual engines where every chamber, corridor, and concealed niche served a purpose in the grand mechanism of eternity. The alchemical blend of astronomy, acoustics, and hydraulics found in chambers like Jedker's subterranean labyrinth suggests a sophistication that borders on the scientific, while the ritualistic precision of Senusret's personal artifacts speaks to an intimacy we rarely associate with god-kings. This isn't just history, it's a mirror. The more we uncover, the more these chambers reflect our own unending quest for meaning. They challenge us to reconsider not just ancient Egypt, but the nature of innovation itself. How many of our modern breakthroughs are rediscoveries of lost knowledge? How much of human progress is cyclical rather than linear? The pyramids, with their layers of secrets, whisper that the past might be far closer than we think. Now it's your turn. Which of these chambers fascinates you most? Do you think they held practical functions we've yet to decipher, or were they purely symbolic? Share your theories, no matter how unconventional, in the comments. After all, the greatest discoveries often begin with a single, speculative question whispered into the dark. And who knows, the next big revelation about these ancient enigmas might just come from you.